Welcome to Valkyrie Women's Wrestling Confidential, the official podcast and YouTube show of Valkyrie Women's Wrestling. I am Rob Blatt, your host, and with me today, not my usual broadcast partner, and dare I say, great friend, Top Shelf Troy Nelson. Today, I am joined on Valkyrie Confidential by senior official for Valkyrie and referee extraordinaire, Kris Levin. Kris, welcome to Valkyrie Confidential.
Thank you, Rob. My first time on the podcast. It's an exciting feeling.
Yeah, so we are here. Well, first, we have a great interview later. But first, we are here. Let's talk a bit about VALKYRIE VI, the anniversary spectacular in beautiful Woodbury Heights, New Jersey.
Absolutely. That was such an exciting event. Before we even get to the main card of that show, we had the Valkyrie Rising pre-show. And that had a really special place in my heart because from the beginning, I've been with Valkyrie, and a big goal was to help out the up-and-comers, those who maybe aren't getting properly showcased elsewhere. And that's always been our goal, whether it's the women of Valkyrie or even some of our male friends from other companies. And we had a great opportunity to do that in the Valkyrie Rising pre-show.
Absolutely. At some point, someone gave you a shot, someone gave me a shot, and so Valkyrie Rising, a great opportunity for someone who's looking for just a chance. In some cases, folks with experience, but also some debuts as well. So let's talk a bit about Valkyrie Rising. Sure.
Just to give it a quick rundown, and by the way, Valkyrie Rising is available on the VALKYRIE VI Anniversary Spectacular DVD as well as video on demand rental. All available at ValkyrieWomans.com for starting at just $4.99.
See, your first time on the show, you're already a natural at plugging.
So, in our opening contest, we had Savannah Evans by way of the Carolinas coming from the High Spots Training Academy going against Northeast veteran Swag Queen J. Cruz, formerly known as her full name, Jennifer Cruz.
And Savannah Evans with the victory over J. Cruz.
And not just a victory, a very quick victory, which infuriated Jen Cruz. So we were able to see a bit of a rematch later on in the main card. That was followed by our friends at Old Time Wrestling as they presented an Old Time Wrestling Heavyweight Championship defense as defending champion Adam Chandler defended against Justin Pusser.
And that match ended by DQ for those looking for a clean finish. 2 referees on this show. No clean finish for you. Disqualification. Sometimes it is necessary, folks.
Not happy about it, but it happens.
We keep telling you not to push us, but yet you do.
After that, we were followed by our friends at Lucky Pro Wrestling up in New England as All Good Anthony Green defended his Hard Knocks Championship against our own Dickie Rods with superstar Nikki Adams in his corner.
And not the diva Dickie Rods this time, but just Dickie Rods.
Well, Dickie Rods is always a bit of a diva for anyone who has to deal with them behind the scenes, I'll say.
Can't argue with that.
Him and Nikki Adams, I'm not very big on their attitudes.
No, but can't argue against their talent. However, Anthony Green, All Good Anthony Green, with the victory at VALKYRIE VI during Valkyrie Rising.
Oh yes, everyone involved for that match was a phenomenal talent. Anthony Green, he comes out of Chaotic Wrestling's school, formerly from the Spike Dudley lockup camp. Dickie Rods, he's been wrestling for 15 years. He's had a hand in training some of the greatest guys out there today. The Trent Beretta, Kurt Hawkins, Zack Ryder. He's an incredible hand.
But not so great on the attitude. And then in our final Valkyrie Rising match, we had Natalie Marie defeating Katrid, the Clockwork Angel.
This match was really important to us because, like we said earlier, this was about up-and-comers, and this was both of these women's first ever in-ring match, it's exciting and it's scary, and we had them in the main event because we wanted to make a statement that this is what it's about, the future. And they delivered. They had a great contest.
Absolutely. And both have gone on to work in multiple promotions.
Absolutely. Our great friends at Warriors of Wrestling in Staten Island. And we'd be remiss if we forgot to mention that Natalie had her own mentor, La Rosa Negra, as well as the unpredictable Jorge Estrada in her corner.
Absolutely. And then we will talk a little bit about Natalie's further involvement in wrestling a little later on, recapping WrestleFest, South Jersey WrestleFest.
Yes, sir.
After the interview today.
Now on to the main show.
Absolutely. Main show, opening match, Hanaya the Howling Huntress against Ashley America.
Yeah, Hanaya the Howling Huntress, hot off of her victory in a 2 out of 3 falls match, a rivalry that had started all the way back at our first event, VALKYRIE I against La Rosa Negra. She won the feud, she won the rivalry, and she won her match against Ashley America.
Absolutely. Our next match, that rematch that we were talking about, J. Cruz, the swag queen, J. Cruz, against Savannah Evans.
J. Cruz, she said that she was caught off guard earlier, and she was much better prepared for this match. And the proof is in the pudding. J. Cruz was able to pull out a victory.
Absolutely. Then we had a singles match with La Rosa Negra, with Natalie and, pardon my Spanish, Jorge Estrada, I want to say. It's the unpredictable Jorge Estrada, defeating Renee Michelle.
Yes, her high-flying scorpion splash off the top, and it was exactly what you've come to expect out of a La Rosa Negra match in VALKYRIE. And Renee Michelle only continues to become better and better. It was an early contender for show stealer that night.
Absolutely, and also hard to fight those numbers. The number game will always catch up to you, I'll say. And then let's talk about Jesse Bonesaw Brooks with Julia Smokes going one-on-one with Sumie.
I had to.
With Sumie Sakai.
Yeah, this was a big matchup for everyone involved. There were so many layers going into this. Sumie Sakai defeated Bonesaw Jesse Brooks on the first VALKYRIE event in the semifinals for the International Joshi Grand Prix, the tournament which Sumie would go on to win. Ever since then, Bonesaw remained undefeated up until her title match at the previous event, VALKYRIE V, going against Casey Carlisle. Sumie, on the other hand, took a very similar path. She had a VALKYRIE championship match, the Queen of VALKYRIE, against Casey Carlisle at VALKYRIE III, and this would be to determine the first ever inaugural Queen of VALKYRIE champion. Casey Carlisle stole the victory, and ever since then, Sumie has been hot on her trail, undefeated. But Carlisle has postulated that if Sumie wanted a championship opportunity, she needed to defeat Bonesaw at this event, and she was unable to do so, going to the 15-minute time limit draw.
So that sets up for VALKYRIE VII, a match that was announced we'll discuss VALKYRIE VII in a bit, but an exciting main event for VALKYRIE VII.
Absolutely. We'll get to that in a little bit, but
yes. Coming
Coming up next was Angel Dust versus Deonna Purrazzo, and it was Angel Dust's return to VALKYRIE, not having competed since VALKYRIE II, and it was a great return.
Absolutely, in phenomenal shape, might I add.
Absolutely. Deonna Purrazzo, she's no slouch either. They had a great... Another one, a lot of people were saying possible show stealer there.
Hard to argue the talent in the ring. But Angel Dust coming up with the victory there. And can I say for a moment, the next match, I was looking forward to this match ever since, I interviewed Davienne not long ago. Well, maybe about 7 months ago on this very program, and essentially leading up to this match, it was just the feud between these two women, between Davienne and Lexia Avery, had kind of just started at that point. But the Scream Queen, Davienne and Lexia Avery in a Texas Bullrope match. I was very excited for this one.
Absolutely. Was looking to be one of the most brutal matches in VALKYRIE's history, and it did not disappoint.
And we have an interview with Lexia Avery, who happened to be the victor of this match, later in this program.
Yes, I'm sure she'll give a bit more insight to everything that happened, but yeah, ever since Davienne got her first VALKYRIE win at Lexia Avery's dispense at VALKYRIE IV, Lexia Avery has been hot on her trail.
Hard to argue the success that Davienne has had since this as well.
Absolutely. She right now as we speak, she's doing a tour of Japan with Marvelous, along with Renee Michelle.
Crazy. Just crazy.
Wow.
I'll just say that. If you haven't heard the episode Valkyrie Confidential, episode 3, our interview with Davienne, you can find that on YouTube and on Valkyrie Women's Professional Wrestling's website. Then we have a singles match. Nyla the Destroyer and Nikki Adams. One-on-one, of course, with Dickie Rods at Nikki Adams' side. And then also broadcast colleague, great friend, dare I say a wonderful friend of mine, Top Shelf Troy Nelson, nearby.
Yes, that was, I guess you could call that Nyla the Destroyer's first one-on-one encounter in a Valkyrie ring of any substance. She made her in-ring debut, of course, against Ashley America, which was a relatively quick match. But this match, it was back and forth. Another one. I hate to keep overusing this phrase, but another potential show stealer. I mean, this was just a loaded show.
Up and down. This was. I mean, it's hard to argue, but it's one of these. But this is absolutely one of my favorite Valkyrie shows that happened. And then let's talk about the main event, the Queen of Valkyrie title match between Casey Carlisle and the returning Kimberly.
Yes, Kimberly, last seen at Valkyrie III, Queens Road, where she had the match of the year winning three-way dance, the first ever in Valkyrie's history, and the only one so far in Valkyrie's history, against Hanaya, the Howling Huntress, and La Rosa Negra. Kimberly won the match, which gave her the right to be the first challenger for the Queen of Valkyrie Championship. However, due to schedule conflicts and things like that, Kimberly was never able to cash in that opportunity until now.
The winner of that match, Casey Carlisle, retains her Queen of Valkyrie title.
Yes, this was a huge match. I mean, so much, you could say, symmetry in this match, because Casey Carlisle was Kimberly's first ever opponent years ago. It's funny how things come full circle.
Absolutely. One day I hope to have a rematch with my first opponent as a professional wrestler. We'll see if that happens down the line.
Well, Smokes might be able to help you out with that one.
I can avenge that horrendous loss. I think I got a side headlock in on that match, and that's about it.
Yeah. I mean, you can call it
about
that.
All I managed. Yeah. Oddly enough, Top Shelf Troy Nelson helped me out in that one too. Good friend of mine, great friend of mine. That Top Shelf. Yeah. So there is a reason that Kris, that you're on the show today, rather than my great friend Top Shelf Troy Nelson. And that is to discuss Valkyrie VII and kind of the future of Valkyrie here. I'm gonna take a slight somber tone, but not terribly somber. But so let's talk a little bit about Valkyrie VII, which is as we speak, it's scheduled for to happen in mid-November.
Yes. Very unfortunately, Valkyrie VII will have to be postponed. It's with a very heavy heart that I say that, and much sadness, but it's something that's very unavoidable. And I'm here as a liaison between myself and the owners of Valkyrie. I'm going to respect his privacy, but the head honcho, if you will, Adam, he is going through a terrible point in life right now. He had 2 back-to-back family tragedies that really have shaken him and his family to the core. And rightfully so, he decided that he needed to step away, and not permanently, not forever, just take a breather and kind of let himself handle everything that's going on, recharge his batteries, and come back ready to give Valkyrie all of the energy and time that it really deserves.
So, just confirming here, the event is postponed. However, Valkyrie will continue.
Absolutely. The event is postponed, not canceled. As Adam puts it, don't look at it as an end, look at it only as a pause while he handles what he needs to handle. I'm not exactly sure when it will resume. I imagine it's not going to be too long of a break, but as much time as Adam needs, because as much as I and we all love pro wrestling, there are times when things need to come first, such as family.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, we will have more to say after the interview today. Do not discount this interview because it is a great one with Top Shelf Troy Nelson and Lexia Avery talking about her past in Valkyrie, talking about her past in wrestling, talking about the gathering of the Juggalos, talking about where she's come from, where she's going, and then there is discussion about VALKYRIE VII. This interview is recorded a few days ago before this announcement was made. However, so sit back, enjoy the interview. Lexia Avery, find out some more, and then we will be back after the interview with some more fun announcements.
The first question I always like to ask, that I want to know if I don't already know, is just what was it like growing up? Where are you from originally? What do you know, and when do you know it? That's what we start with. Where are you from?
Where am I from? Okay, so that's actually kind of a long question, but I was originally born in Tampa, Florida, so that's why I go for the Buccaneers. Even though, yeah, they're horrible. It's okay.
Martin's back this year. Running back, Doug Martin, he's going to be healthy.
Yeah, well, let's see if one person can pull it out for them. Which I doubt. I always watch the beginning of the season, and then I end up, just at a bar, drunk, angry, and I'm like, never mind, let me quit watching football before I want to murder somebody. So I'm originally from there, but my parents separated when I was young, and my mom moved to New Mexico in 1990. So I went to school there and then went back and forth from there. When I was a teenager, my dad moved to Dallas, Texas, and went back and forth between Dallas and New Mexico. And then I graduated high school and I actually went to basic training, and I didn't really finish because I pulled my hamstring, and then got into some trouble when I got back to my mom's, and then moved to Texas because I was a troublemaker apparently, and lived with my dad for a while when I first got into or started thinking about training for wrestling.
Interesting.
So kind of short, sweet.
To the point that early life, you're a troublemaker.
Yeah, not so bad, but
you're still a troublemaker.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you most certainly are. And that's why we like you. At least that's why I like you.
Well, I'm not a troublemaker. I'm just doing what's right.
You're just doing what's right. Some people might question you on that. I'm not one of those people. So you split some time between Dallas, Texas, and New Mexico. How long was the split? How long of a distance was it when you were kind of doing the travel back and forth growing up?
How long was I in each place, or?
Well, what was the distance between Dallas and where you were in New Mexico?
Well, I mean, driving it was 12 hours.
12-hour distance.
But I flew. I would spend my summers with my dad, and a week or two of winter, winter break whenever you're out of school. Mm-hmm. But no, it wasn't bad because it was always flying, and so I've been traveling, I guess, since I was little.
Yeah.
Kind of used to that life.
So, but the most part, spent a lot of it in Texas. We see a lot of the imagery of Texas in your just your presence in the ring, but that of course always brings me to the kind of the standard second question.
All right.
How did you? It's the best doing this with the women. I honestly say this isn't a matter of sex or anything like that. It's just how did you, as a girl, were you a little girl when you became a wrestling fan? That's the question. When did you become a wrestling fan? How did it happen?
I remember always watching wrestling since I can remember. That was something me and my dad always did. Because like I said, my parents got divorced when I don't even remember my parents being together. But I remember that was something me and my dad always did. Even when he lived in Florida still, we went to wrestling shows. And I remember seeing The Undertaker, and he was my favorite. He was absolutely my favorite. I love him to death. I still get excited when I see him. And I remember one time me and my dad were watching wrestling, and we would always like reenact everything, you know how you do when you're little. But my dad would do it with me, and I told him, Daddy, I want to be a wrestler. I don't remember how old I was. I remember I was little though. And here we are now. But but from what I was told, my mom actually got my dad into wrestling when they lived in Tampa. And my mom took my dad to a live wrestling show. I forgot who it was. He said it was Dusty Rhodes and somebody else wrestling. That was the first wrestling match he ever saw. And my mom said she would go to wrestling shows when she was pregnant with me. So I blame her.
You've been watching wrestling since you were in the womb.
Yes.
The womb, yes, indeed. Now, so are we talking like they were watching it in like we talking Dusty Rhodes 80s, like maybe working down for like the grams or something? Are we talking about maybe WWF in the early 90s? Like, what are we?
We're talking 80s. I was born in 85, so let me see what match. I forgot what match it was. He said that he saw. And it was apparently it was a Texas Bullrope match that my dad was watching.
No kidding.
Haha, get it?
Beautiful. So with that said, then, so if your dad remembers watching the Dusty Rhodes with your mom, like, especially as a little girl and then growing up, who was it that you had your eye on? Who were your favorite wrestlers? You said The Undertaker. Like, who were your, like, as a fan, just who are the people that captivated you? Like, as a fan, as I'm saying, like, as a kid, as a fan, who was it?
As a kid, Undertaker was number one. Absolutely number one favorite wrestler ever. Still is. Love him to death.
He's actually, Undertaker has always been my favorite wrestler as well. But what is it about The Undertaker for you that has made him your favorite wrestler?
I just loved how different he was than, like, from everybody else. Like, I don't know. I guess, I don't know what it is. It's just his presence there. You can't deny that it's there. I don't know. I was kind of more of like a kid that was into like the gothic scene. I wasn't like super gothic or anything, but those were my friends, and so I don't know if that's always just been in the back of my head since I was little. And it's hard to say why. Like he was just the coolest. Like, you know, you couldn't knock him down, and if you did, he would just sit up and then come back at you. So it was kind of like, you knock me down, but I'm gonna fight right back.
Of course,
I guess. My favorite female wrestler was actually, you didn't really consider her a female, most people didn't, was Chyna. Okay. And I loved the NWO. And it's funny that it's so popular now, but I had always really liked them when I was younger. I don't know who didn't even know they were the bad guys. But I guess I've always kind of liked the bad guys, and then when I got older, my teenage years, I loved Edge. Like, absolutely loved him.
Understandable.
That was more of a girl crush. I loved his wrestling, but that was more of just having a crush on a wrestler was Edge. Yeah.
You'll have to tell him sometime.
I've gotten close to him, but I've never actually gotten close enough to tell him.
All right, so we know who it is that kept you a fan, and for me, another one of these questions is I always find it so interesting. Like, where's this turning point? Other than you said when you were little, you said, "Daddy, I'm gonna be a wrestler." What made you cross that line of crazy that we all have here in this business that made you say, "I'm going off to school"? How did you break into the business? How did it happen? When did it happen? What was the deciding factor that said, "Well, it's time. It's time to do it"?
Well, when I was in Texas and living in Texas, I moved there, like I said, after I got into trouble. I moved in with my dad shortly after, I would say 2004. So then in 2005, I actually moved away from Texas for a little while and lived in Arkansas for a short period of time. And then, like, I was only there about a month and a half. And then after that, I stayed with some people in Oklahoma, and the person I was staying with was a wrestler. And before I actually moved in with them, I went to my first indie show, first ever indie show, and that was actually back in Texas.
Is it in Oklahoma or Texas?
Well, I was staying in Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. Actually, I'm sorry, I was staying in Arkansas. It was like a border town of Arkansas and Oklahoma. But when I first started training, the people I trained with first originally were from Oklahoma. So it's like lines are kind of blurred here. But my first indie show was actually in Texas. It was in San Angelo, and I met quite a few people there. I went with this guy that I was gonna train with, but things ended up falling apart, and I met other people. That's what I'm saying. It's kind of a long drawn out story, but I'm trying to condense it. So I went to an indie show with Jimmy Candler. He went by Jimmy Playboy, and he's rest his soul. He passed away a few years ago. But I went to my first indie show in Texas with them, but we were from Arkansas, and I met a few people, and that's when I decided, I'm going to do this. We had already been talking about it. I went to an indie show, met a lot of indie wrestlers, and that's when I decided. So then the next one...
before we move on, was there anyone specific on that show? If that was the deciding factor, was there anybody that you saw on that show that was kind of that caught your eye, maybe? Anyone?
Well, there was a lot of people on that show that they had some pretty good matches. It was kind of a long time ago. Yeah. That was almost 2 years. That was about 10 years ago.
In the Texas indie scene, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later, has changed drastically in 10 years. There's a lot going on in Texas right now, so I can only imagine what it was like 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's been kind of hectic. But I remember the two people that I met. The first time I ever met them was Dusty. Dusty Wolf.
Yes.
And Vex, he's a Texas wrestler. I don't know if he's wrestling anymore because he had some health issues last year. But he had only been wrestling for about 6 months then. And I've actually wrestled Vex a few times since then. Yeah. But I remember those two people because I kept in contact with Vex. And then there were some other people, but I don't remember them very much. And I don't know if they're wrestling anymore. But San Angelo is kind of off a small town that's far away from all the other Texas wrestling that's going on now. But I remember meeting Dusty Wolf, and he pretty much told me, if you're going to do it, just do it. You can't puss out about it. Just got to do it.
So you after you talked, that's when you decided you started. Where was the start? Where did it happen?
I went to my next show was an indie show that was in, I believe this was actually in Arkansas, but it was with the guys from Oklahoma. And I went to the show. I helped set up the ring because they're like, if you're going to do this, that's what you got to start doing. You have to pay your dues. Set up the ring, and this was a small little show that was inside of a church that ended up holding maybe 80 people, which is not bad. Not too bad, but it's a lot of small shows. It's a lot of families of the wrestlers and things like that. But before the show, after we got the ring set up, the guy that I started training with had been already wrestling for 25 years. His name was Running Wolf.
Running Wolf. A lot of wolves.
Well, he was straight Native American.
Okay.
And he did the Native American gimmick, did Running Wolf. I mean, it wasn't very, very difficult because it wasn't far-fetched. But he had already been wrestling 25 years, so he's very, very old school. So pay your dues, put up the ring, and of course I'm a girl, so he tried to run me rampant and run me off. The first day, I probably bumped 500 times. I thought I was going to die the next day, but apparently
he's not used to it. That it's almost second nature to bump now. Here you are 10 years, and I'm 3 years into my career. Bumping's second nature, but that for those first times that somebody bumps you like crazy, my God, I can't even describe how awful it feels.
After 10 years, I don't think I could do that now. I would probably go into a coma or
Yeah.
something, because I'm like, I bump like 5 times in a match, and I'm like, oh, my hip.
That's bad enough. I bump 5 times a year myself. That's me. I save them. Miss them when they're gone.
Yeah.
So he tried to run you off.
He tried to run me off, and granted, the next time training wasn't as bad. It wasn't like bumping 500 times, but it was still a lot of bumping. Maybe 200 times the next time. But he didn't have, what a lot of people have nowadays, like the dojos where the rings are always set up and put up to nicely, in an air-conditioned building, or sometimes not even air-conditioned, but it's still in a building. He didn't have that. He had a ring, and he had his little shed that he had the ring, but it wasn't set up. So anytime you wanted to train, you had to set up the ring, do the training, and then tear it back down.
And break down the ring. You want to talk about paying dues.
Yeah.
Every single time.
That's why when some of these young girls and young boys talk about paying dues, I'm like, what do you know about paying dues? I'm like, granted, you can do some cool stuff in that ring, but do you even really know what paying dues is? I've gone to shows and the young boys walk off before the ring's torn down, and because they have a ring crew. I'm like, what the hell is this nonsense? Get over there and do it.
Absolutely. Help out. There's always room for more help. Absolutely.
Yeah, always.
Absolutely.
I have a good little story about that. I was riding, so being brought up by an old school trainer, and most of what I learned from him was more of the paying dues stuff. I learned how to bump and do basic things from him, but paying dues was what I learned with him. Setting up the ring, you shake everybody's hand before you do anything, and then that gets me really, really hot. If somebody doesn't shake my hand, I'm not, granted, sometimes accidents happen, but if I'm standing in a group of people, and this has happened to me before, and especially guys, if I'm just in street clothes, they'll shake everybody's hand, and then they kind of just look at me and walk away. I just want to punch them in the back of the head when they walk away from me. It just drives me nuts. Anyway, there was a young boy. We were going down to a show in San Antonio from Dallas, and he showed up to my apartment because we were going to drive my car down there. And San Antonio from my place was about 5 hours. And I didn't get much sleep the night before because I had another show that I drove. I drove from the other show, got home, and then had 2 hours to get some sleep. And then, but I also had to get make sure I had everything together, even though it came from another show, make sure, food, things like that are settled, and also my dog. And he got there, and I was like, you're going to have to drive the whole way. And he was like, well, I haven't slept. I'm like, neither have I. And granted, he's been wrestling less than a year. And I'm like, well, too bad, you're going to have to drive. That's part of being green. That's what you do. You're the driver. Well, while I was finishing getting my bag into the car and everything, he was literally asleep on my couch by the time I got my bag in my car and back. Grab him. I'm like, well, I don't want to die, so I guess I'm driving. So I drove the whole way to San Antonio, and this boy slept the whole way there. Slept 5 hours in the car.
You smack him.
I did brake checks a few times, and then I was like, you know what, whatever, it's fine. So then we get to the show, and we're early. The ring's not even set up. You see them pulling the ring out and the boards and all that. And I'm like, all right. I was like, I'm going to take a nap in my car. And then he's like, I'm going to take a nap too. I'm like, no, you're not. You're going to get out of this car and help them with that ring. And he was like, what? I was like, you just slept 5 hours. You're going to go help them. But I'm tired. I don't care. You're green. You need to learn, and you need to learn how to pay your dues, especially since you didn't drive any. And then he kind of looked back, because normally, outside of the ring, I feel like I can be a pretty friendly person, and I joke around a lot and play around with other wrestlers that I'm not gonna fight that day. But he was kind of taken aback by that because I'm like, yeah, I'm being that lady. Can I cuss on here? I don't know.
Yes. Please.
Anyway, I'm that bitch. I turned that way instantly when he was like, I'm gonna take a nap. I'm like, no, you're not.
Should have hit him with a cowbell back then.
Yeah, if I had one in my car, I probably would have.
This young boy, you don't have to mention his name if you'd like to. You may, but has he done anything since said car ride? Is he?
No, I don't think he wrestled for very much longer.
Yeah, I wonder why.
He was actually a musician also, and his music career started going pretty well, I guess. Which that's fine, that's great. Like, do what you're gonna do, but you're not gonna come and disrespect my business.
So when you and Chad Kroger of Nickelback were riding to this indie show, I can't believe he treated you. I mean,
how do you even know his name?
I know.
I don't even know that.
Just a wild cat. I'm more embarrassed I know that his name's Chad Kroger. Oh, man. So, this is breaking in. Who's your first match against? When's the date? Paint me a picture.
Very first match was actually a 5-way, so I don't remember everybody that was in it. There was some girls that were not even like really wrestlers. There was one girl that was her name was Nicole. I think she went by, I forgot what her last name was, but she doesn't wrestle any longer. When she finished school, she became like a parole officer, and then and she wrestled for a little bit longer, and then she started seeing people that were on parole at shows, and she was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, she's seeing people drinking that aren't supposed to be drinking, and she's like, I can't be here.
Yeah, I know, right? That's tough.
Yeah, it was like a 5-way match, and it was kind of a scramble and a mess because 3 of the 5 girls were not really traditionally trained, I guess you could say.
Otherwise known as not trained.
Yeah, not trained.
Not traditionally trained,
not
you're
traditionally
not trained.
Or they trained in a trainer's bedroom or something like that, like kind of that ordeal. And then that was in September 2006. So I
think one of the interesting things that we're gonna want to make of note, you are in fact quietly, I feel, you are a 10-year vet, and I feel like it's because so much of your career was spent Midwest, down south, down about Texas and such, like you've finally been coming around here to the East Coast. This is like not necessarily something new for you, but you're more off, like this is, more frequently in the Northeast now.
Yes.
Before. Yes. So when was your first trip up to the Northeast?
My first trip to the Northeast was actually September last year.
So this exactly. So now you that's why I feel like some people I've commented like like she's new or something, like you've been around for a while tearing it up down in Texas. I know for a fact that you and Barbie Hayden, for one, former NWA Women's Champion, you and her have had at it on many an occasion.
Yeah, Barbie's actually only been wrestling for a few years. I think she came on the scene because I did stop for a little while I was in school. Yeah. People were thought, oh, she retired. I'm like, no, I didn't retire. I just stopped wrestling. Like, I just stopped taking bookings and was like, all right. So that's when I went back to school for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And
was that to become a nurse?
Yes, that's when I got my nursing degree. And then during my schooling, I actually, I was in the middle of moving, and I found my old gear bag, which I still have. I've had this bag for 10 years. It's gone with me through this long haul, and it's lasted, of which I'm surprised. But I was in the midst of moving, and I hadn't opened it in probably about 1.5 years, almost 2 years.
It must have smelled like shake that ass.
It smelled like wrestling. That's exactly what
that's such a nice way to put it for anyone that doesn't know what that smells. It's
horrible. It's the worst smell ever.
Not a good smell. It's a good smell for us, maybe, but it's not a good smell for
when you haven't smelled it in 2 years, it literally, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm like, and I got all teary-eyed. I'm like, I miss wrestling.
You got teary-eyed because it's not because it smelled like wrestling, but it smelled like eggshell. That if there's any quote that comes out of this podcast episode is that, oh, it smells like wrestling. Man.
Yeah. So when I came back, that's actually when Barbie was first starting, because I went my first show back. I wrestled this girl Kira Maya, which I'm really good friends with. She's not wrestling anymore. Which funny story about her, how she got started wrestling. But I saw Barbie for the first time, and I think she was just starting, because Barbie, Hayden, and Ken was Houston. He goes by Houston Carson now, but he was like Ken Carson, or Ken, not Ken Carson, not Ken. He was just Ken. So it was Barbie and Ken when they first, started coming around, and that's when I first met her. And then I stopped wrestling again for like 6 months while I was finishing my internship and stuff. And then I came back, and I guess came back with a vengeance, because me and Barbie wrestled several times across Texas. And I wrestled her, I think, 3 times for the belt. Obviously, never won it. But
to say, I said the same thing to Casey Carlisle, who is a former NWA Women's Champion. Just being able to be given the opportunity at a prestigious belt that has been around for, well over 50 years. Just the names of people that have fought for it and have held it, that's a pretty incredible feeling, just to be, have the opportunity to wrestle for the NWA Championship.
Of course.
And were they at NWA sanctioned shows, or were they at other shows where the NWA women's title was being defended?
Well, they were NWA sanctioned shows. One of them, it might have been 4 times I wrestled her for the belt. NWA Texoma, which I just recently wrestled at when I went back home about a month ago. Yeah, it was August. And then, actually, maybe just a few weeks ago. And then that was last year. And then NWA 360, which that match is actually on YouTube. And then there was NWA Houston, which they're no longer NWA now, but they were at the time. And then I think there was one more. I just don't remember. So 360, Texoma. No, the other time I wrestled her was before she got the belt, actually, and that was at NWA BOW. So Texoma, which is just north of Dallas, 360, which is just north of Austin, and BOW, NWA and BOW, which was San Antonio. So
all around Texas, then.
All around Texas, yeah.
I think that's awesome.
NWA is very prominent in Texas. I mean,
I was going to say, all those southern states where people are still paying for that NWA name. I mean,
yeah. There's some NWAs, like there's one in California and things like that, which...
Is there, I know they used to have the NWA Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. Even they severed ties with the NWA.
I know Vendetta is NWA now, also Vendetta Pro.
Yeah.
They were last time I saw, but I don't know.
We used to have the place up here in New England Championship Wrestling started as just NECW. Then they were NWA, NECW for a hot minute, and then... you don't see it as much up in New England where I'm from anymore. I don't think Maine had a place, NWA on Fire, and now I think NWA on Fire's moved down to the New Jersey area now, but they used to be up here in Maine. So, but the NWA still has quite a presence down in the South and places like Texas.
Yes.
I think it's interesting, those belts, lineages, and everything, just so rich in history.
There's a lot of NWAs in Tennessee, and then Louisiana, and just in the South.
A very popular one. I know NWA Smoky Mountain in Tennessee.
Mm-hmm. Now they're now NWA Mid-South, which is in Dyersburg, which is the other side of Tennessee. So not too. They're not doing too bad.
No.
I'm actually pretty good friends with a lot of NWA people, like James Beard. He's He's got a big deal with them. He helps them out a lot. And then, what is his name? The owner.
The owner?
Yeah.
The owner was it Bruce Tharp, right?
Bruce Tharp. Okay, that was on the tip of my tongue. Anytime I see him, he's always like super friendly.
Fans at home, if you tweet at Bruce Tharp, he will favorite it. He will either favorite it,
he will respond too, probably, if you do something clever enough. I love Bruce Tharp's jackets, and thanks to Bruce Tharp and him bringing over a lot of the New Japan guys, I've gotten to meet Kojima. I got to meet Tanzan. I was Tazan. I can't say it.
Yep, here's Tenzin. Yep, you got it.
Yeah, I'm
and they've been having a talent exchange. You have guys like Chase Owens going over to Japan. I think I actually have a friend of mine who goes to all the Texas shows. He always loved Big Daddy Yum Yum.
Oh, right? Good Lord! I've actually tagged with him before.
What's he like? He has the best name. Does he still go by that? Is he like Brock?
He does. I'm sad he doesn't. I don't know. I haven't seen him in a year. I don't know if he takes the shake weight to the ring anymore or not.
But is it Big Daddy Yum? Isn't it Is he Byron Wilcott, or is it somebody else?
It's Byron Wilcott, Big Daddy Yum Yum. Yep, that's
Big Daddy Yum Yum. And not from what I've seen, and I haven't seen too much, but I mean, like, not a bad worker. Very not a Memphis style, but a very Southern style, and all those guys, all powerhouses. You got Jax Dane.
Which he is now the NWA World Champion.
He is because I know Rob Conway. I try to keep up, as someone in the business, I try to keep on the up and up. And who else? Who's the other? Jason Kincaid, the Gift, right? He's pretty.
Yeah, he's really good. I've seen him wrestle a few times, but I got to see him wrestle recently here in North Carolina at AML. It's funny because the people yell at him that, he's a wizard. I'm like, he looks like a wizard. He is magical. I don't know how he does half the stuff he does in that ring. It's crazy. He's gifted. Huh?
You should have saved that one for me. All right, so NWA. I'm going to open up my own territory when I'm retired next year, when I quit the business. So you've worked up and down Texas. You've come up here to the Northeast. We'll talk a little bit about Valkyrie soon enough, but the pressing question on my mind, and we talked about this when I told you this, like back when we were originally going to do this podcast, like 2 months ago. You know what I'm getting at here. Tell me about working the gathering of the Juggalos. I'm going to preface this question. Lexia, I like you. You're a sweetheart. I've enjoyed it, to me at least. You said you're a bitch to other people, but but you've been nothing but good to me. I'm not going to say I don't get the Juggalo thing. For those that are out there that are the Juggalos listening, I'm from Massachusetts. I'm a middle class family. You just
don't get it.
I'm not saying I don't get it. I suppose I could see the allure in it. That it's its own culture. It's its own thing. I suppose they're not hurting me. It's just not for me. But tell me, Lexia, were you actively seeking this gathering of the Juggalos booking? Do you enjoy the music of all those fine people over at Psychedelic Records, right?
No.
Psychopathic. Psychopathic, right? Oh, fantastic. Do you enjoy the works of art that are Mozart-esque from all of those wonderful artists?
Well, there's where you're going wrong in the first place. When you expect Mozart and you talk about Insane Clown Posse or Twisted or Psychopathic Records, there's your problem there. But anyway... I did actively seek that out. I wrestled there this year, and I wrestled there last year. It was pretty cool. It's probably one of the coolest things that I could say that I've done because I've gone to many gatherings on my own, just going.
Sorry.
Whoa there. Let me explain.
I will. I'll let you finish.
Let me talk here.
I'm gonna Kanye here. I'm gonna let you finish.
Obviously, when I was growing up, I was mid-class, and my friends were into it. I started listening. Actually, the first time I listened to ICP, it was because of my sister. And she's 7 years older than me. So I started listening when I was like 10 years old. But then my mom was like, no, you can't listen to this. You're too
She's
young.
right. Your mother's a wonderful woman.
Well, I'm going to cut you off.
Again.
I'm going to cut you off. So I grew up, listening to that, and I was kind of an outsider when I was young anyway. I was kind of awkward, and I still kind of am, but it really was something that I got into. My friends were into it, and then, I was kind of awkward and weird, and when I was little, I was picked on all the time, so I kind of, that was my thing. I was like, oh, now I have this group of people to be friends with that are also awkward and weird, and they're not going to judge me. Which, it's funny because Juggalos are some of the most judgmental people in the world, but they say they're not, but they are. It's like...
They're very judgmental.
Yes, like, it's supposed to be like a family atmosphere, and then if you're like that with your friends, and that's how it is... Take the premise of wrestling. We all say we're family and da-da-da-da, but then there's so much drama. Yeah, we all hate each other secretly and talk shit about each other, and you know how it is. And obviously, like, I might get some hate on this from wrestlers, but like, we're all great. Like, but then you see people post, family, my wrestling family, and then you see people post about how, oh, everybody hates me. And I'm like, yeah, because at wrestlers, the thing is with most, not all, you can't say this about all, and this is the same thing where they go hand in hand with Juggalos and wrestlers, even though they're not the same group, but people are out for themselves. Mm-hmm. And they're always going to look out for number one, which is, how you're kind of raised in general, but some people just take it to an extreme, or they do say the family thing, but if you don't meet their criteria, then you're not part of that family. Like, if you're not the greatest wrestler, then you're not really a wrestler. And then, or if you don't have this Juggalo stuff, then you're not really a Juggalo. Or you actually have money, so then you're not really poor, so you're not a Juggalo. Or stupid things. But I grew up liking it. It got me through some stuff. I do have Juggalo tattoos. I have two of them.
Do you feel that it made you a better person?
For me, yes.
Interesting. With that said, more power to you. Absolutely. Because I can contest. You're a good person like that. I don't say that in jest. So if that helped you,
don't tell people.
I know. Good. Ding. Whoa. Bells and whistles over there. So,
my Twitter's blowing up. Sorry.
Usually, because that's the thing, at the gathering, they usually, all the stars do a line there. Who did you end up working with over at the gathering? I know that Crazy Mary Dobson's very popular over there. I enjoy watching her work.
So last year I wrestled Nevaeh.
Yes, of the Ohio is for Killers, correct?
Yes. Yeah, and funny thing is, I was supposed to be a babyface in Ohio, even if it was the gathering of the Juggalos, because she's also a Juggalo or in that scene. But so am I, but she's a little bit more popular than I am, especially in Ohio. I'm probably a lot more popular than me, but so it's kind of like, oh, you want me to be all gung-ho, and then all these people love her, and yeah, okay, whatever. It also didn't help that I had friends that were being jackasses because they were Juggalos out in the crowd and purposely booing me because then they knew I couldn't punch them in the face at the moment.
I would have minded you at the festival.
But
and you have worked at previous ones as well?
No, I actually just went. I didn't work at them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think you'll be going back anytime soon?
Oh, I absolutely hope so. It's a great opportunity. It's a lot of fun. The only thing is, so last year when I wrestled Nevaeh, I couldn't stay because it was the last minute that I got put on. So I had a show the night before at Rockstar that was in Dayton, and then I did the gathering, and then I had Friday off, but I had to be in I think it was Mississippi like Saturday, so we had to actually leave, and I couldn't stay for the gathering. And then I had like 3 shows in that day in like Mississippi on Saturday, and Sunday I had to go back to Texas because I had a show in Austin. So it was literally like drive to Ohio, do 2 shows up there, drive to Mississippi, do 3 shows in one day there, and then drive back to Texas. So it was kind of a mess. But this year I got to stay, and we actually left early just because it was kind of like we didn't prepare enough for it. So we got there Thursday, which it starts Wednesday. So we got there Thursday because I had to work, and I work night shift, so I had to get some sleep and things like that. And got there Thursday, did the wrestling show. I was in a 3-way, Amazing Maria, and then there's this other girl that was in there. I forgot what she wrestled by, but she was from Georgia. We had a 3-way, and I went over, which the other girl was like dressed like a living dead doll kind of thing, and so that was kind of creepy, but it was cool. And then Amazing Maria, she's just Canadian. But it was a lot of fun. And then, you know, afterwards, because like before the wrestling show, I went and watched a few people perform, and then call time was actually pretty early, but that's life. And then the next night, I got to go and watch some more acts. Like it was, I think that night was Twisted, and I got to see some other people. But Twisted, granted, I wrestled there last year, and before that, I hadn't been to a gathering in about 5 years. And I haven't like really kept up with them. Like I still listen to the music, like the CDs and the music that I have from the past, but I haven't like went and bought new stuff or anything like that, you know. So all the stuff I know was at least 5 years old or older. So I'm listening to these concerts and I know only like half the songs, and I'm like, I don't know any of this. That's when I was like, I feel old. Like, you know, when the young kids are there and they're not even singing the old songs because they don't know them, and then the new song, like this is just bands in general, and then the new songs, they all know them, and I'm standing there like, yeah, I have no clue what they're saying. All right, let me go get a drink so I can not feel so old, because, and I know I'm not old, but, you know, when you're in a situation like that, you're like, great, thanks for
exactly.
You're like, grandma.
At that age.
There was another time, me and my boyfriend went to Myrtle Beach, and, you know, I have a Hatchet Man tattooed on me, and I was wearing, you know, like a tank top, so you could see, like, a lot of my tattoos, and this kid walked in the store and goes, whoop, whoop, and I turn around and look at him, and he's, like, 12 years old, and this is one of the first times I've ever regretted my tattoo, my Hatchet Man tattoo, because I turn around, and I'm like...
It's like an infant.
Yeah, I'm like, if I was not responsible, I'm old enough to be your mother. And I just turned right back around. I'm like, let's get out of here, please.
You know, I was going to touch on 2 things. You mentioned the tattoo. I was going to say just the gathering of the I know a few people. I'm really good friends with Joey Eastman, who boxed Butterbean at a gathering of the Juggalos once. He didn't fare too well. So it's just, everyone has I'm so glad I got to talk to somebody that's actually got to do it, hear about the experience. But before we talk, we're going to talk Valk in a minute, but one of my questions I had on my list, you do have quite a bit of many tattoos, much body art. Do you have a favorite tattoo?
Oh, God.
That we can see, the untrained eye can actually see when you're out there wrestling. Do you have a favorite? You have a story behind your favorite one?
I don't necessarily have a favorite one. I'm one of. That's kind of hard to say because, like, I love most of my tattoos. I mean, I like all of them, but like the peacock is probably one of my favorites.
The colorful one, yes.
Yeah, but it's also connected. Like the other side is the rose that's like on my bicep. I was actually supposed to get my whole inner arm filled in on that session, but that didn't happen. I pretty much started cussing left and right, and I was like, all right, I'm done. So it was just the rose and a little bit of the purple background. and then connected to the peacocks, the lily. And those 3 things are all done by the same artist, which I miss him dearly. He's in Dallas. He travels, but not here, and that makes me sad. I should come into a new artist. He did the one that's on my hip. That one probably... I have a few tattoos that have a lot of meaning. The one on my hip, that's a bat and a horseshoe, and it has the name Brenda on it. That's from my best friend that passed away. January will be, I think it's 2 years since she passed away. It was very unexpected. And then I have, so another one with meaning is the one that says never give up. I've touched on this on every freaking podcast because everybody always talks about, like, oh, it's John Cena. I'm like, no, it's not effing John Cena. It's
I wouldn't have thought so, no.
I mean, granted, I don't have a problem with John Cena. I don't think he's a decent wrestler. He's a good entertainer, and he's actually a really good person. He does a lot of, charitable things, which, like, when people are like, John Cena sucks, I'm like, you kind of suck for hating on him. But anyway.
What you ever done?
Yeah.
The hell have you ever done?
Yeah, like, you're hating on this man, and he's done nothing but, like, good things. Granted, I hate the hustle, loyalty, respect, or whatever, how that order that goes. But anyway, that's what he does. It's kids love it, and it's good for kids and teaches them a lot. So
very good for kids. Yes.
Yeah.
They'll grow up
See, if I was a guy wrestling him, I would be like Randy Orton versus him all the time. I'd be the bad guy. I'd be the villain. But the one on my wrist that says never give up, I have 3 stars. I had 3 friends in 1 month commit suicide that didn't know each other. So I got that for them. I have some other ones that have a lot of meaning. Then I have some that have absolutely no meaning, like my peacock has no meaning. My dragonfly on my other shoulder has no meaning. I need it touched up. I don't like showing it anymore because it needs to be touched up, but I'm kind of a pansy and don't want to get my foot tattooed on again. But I have a camel on my big toe.
Your camel toe, yes.
My camel toe, yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
You open the door for that one.
Yeah, no, that's why I got it. I used to go around the bar and be like, you want to see my camel toe? And then point at my toe.
Of course, everyone's like, Texas. I can imagine.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Let's talk Valkyrie.
Okay.
The reason for the season. You made your debut, your Valkyrie debut, back in January in New Jersey. I was there. That was my Valkyrie debut, and I got to commentate the match against Sumie Sakai.
No, that was not my debut.
When was your... Wait a minute. Pause. I always think March.
Rewind.
Davienne,
yes.
my Massachusetts sister-in-arms, yes, Davienne, in January.
Yes.
Talk to me about that match. Talk to me about Davienne.
Well, we all know that I didn't win that match. And
You did not win your Valkyrie debut.
No, I not for lack of trying.
Absolutely not.
No. She, it only takes 3 seconds to lose. So she got those 3 seconds on me. But she's a strong competitor. I will say this about her. Hopefully nobody knows, she won't listen to this. But she's still young in this business. And that's part of, like I talked about earlier, I'm very big into respect. And she wants to talk some big game with me, and she doesn't realize. A lot of people, like you said, they don't realize that I've been doing this for a very long time. And
don't underestimate you, by all means. Especially if you're dumb and stupid like Davienne. I hope she's
I feel like she just needs to learn, where her place is. And granted, she'll stick around, but I'm going to teach her the hard lessons that she's probably not learning. I
was say, well, because we're gonna. I think you already have. We're not gonna get to that match yet, but you talk about someone like Davienne, who, as we speak right now, is over in Japan. It's good a guy, and that's the thing, and then that's why wins and losses, my God, are so important in Valkyrie. You think about how she's over there for Chigusa, the guy, was a new promotion, Marvelous, over there with Valkyrie's own Renee Michelle as well. like wins and loss, like I don't know if that's going to eat you up, that loss, because you know you then you get your revenge, Lexia. You do, but I don't want to talk about your revenge quite yet. Let's talk about Sumie Sakai. That was this past March in 2015 against Sumie Sakai. You kicked off the show, if I do not forget, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Talk to you. You want to talk about a seasoned vet as well?
Yeah, that was probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to come against. And you know, she's also got her MMA background, so that's terrifying when you're like, all right, well, let me face this veteran, and not just a veteran in wrestling, but also in MMA.
I think
and hopefully I don't die.
Think about Sumie, and granted, this is about you. Sumie, I think that people don't realize one of the most interesting things about Sumie Sakai, her professional record, 2 of her opponents are current UFC fighters. Jessica Aguilar, she fought and lost a decision against. Jessica Aguilar, formerly the #1 strawweight women's fighter in the world, she went the distance with, and she was submitted by Jessica Penn by armbar back in 2007. She's a tough cookie. That's an understatement. And you went toe-to-toe with her, Lexia. You went toe-to-toe.
Yeah, and I'm very proud of myself for how far I got with her and how close it was. Like it was not easy. Sumie is a little firecracker. She really is, especially when she comes at you off that top buckle with that drop kick. Oh Jesus! I've never been kicked so hard in my chest in my life. I don't think. I think if I'm right, it like not just made me bump, but it flipped me over and turned me out, and that was interesting. But Sumie Sakai, that was actually like one of my most nerve-wracking moments is getting in the ring with her. You know, she's a veteran and she's from Japan. She's been lots of places. She knows lots of people, and to be able to step in the ring with her, it's just amazing. If anybody ever has a chance to do it, I wouldn't turn it down again. I would never turn it down, not again. It's not like I ever did, but if somebody ever turns that down, they're a moron.
And then we lead ourselves to this past July, just a couple months ago, the Bullrope match. The Texas Bullrope match against Davienne, where you got a measure of revenge, to say the least. Talk to me about that match.
Well, Davienne wanted to challenge me to a match because she said that, you know, I cost her match at the show I wrestled Sumie. That Ragnarok, was it? That was Ragnarok. And I don't think I cost that match for her, even though it was nice to watch her lose right in person. Like, I didn't touch her. But she thought it was my fault, so she wanted to challenge me and left it open, any decisions open to me. And of course, I'm gonna go with what I know, being from Texas and Texas Bullrope match. I've watched plenty. It was actually my first time being in the ring with in a Bullrope match, but I've seen plenty of them. So I was like, all right, I know what I got to do. But that thing's tricky because if you can use it, but they can use it on you too. So that's the object is to keep it away from your opponent. And I feel like I fared pretty well with that. Mm-hmm.
For the most part, you did. You literally left her on the shelf. She did not get back up. You took the air out of. You just took the air from her. She did not have anything left in the tank. And that was your first victory in Valkyrie. So probably one of your biggest victories here in the Northeast.
I would say so. Being newer, I haven't been wrestling a lot, so any of my losses are big ones, and my wins are big ones. And that's probably one of the bigger matches I've had in my career. It's a bull rope match. You don't want to mess around and play around with that.
And was that your first rodeo? Was that your first bull rope match?
It was my first bull rope match. Like I said, I've seen lots of them, but I've never actually had one myself. But you can learn a lot from watching.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's talk about future Valkyrie events. No match is announced for our next event, which is going to be on Friday, November 20th. The Old Time Wrestling Arena. We're going to plug it in the exit and the intro go, but that's 1041 Glassboro Road, Building C, Suite 1, Monroe Business Center in Williamstown.
I'm writing this down. I got to remember. Just kidding.
Williamstown, New Jersey. I know how to get there. So much there. There's going to be a lot going on. There's going to be the return of the International Joshi Grand Prix, the second ever. I'm sure you're going to want to into that tournament. If you are entered into that tournament, Lexia, who is it that you would like to see action against? There's someone in particular in Valkyrie that you'd like to take on? Would you like to get your hands on Davienne again? Who is it that you would like to see in action in November?
Who would I like to see? Well, I'll let you know because I've seen what she's done to you. I would like to avoid Nyla.
You say avoid?
I said avoid her. Yeah, she's.
Wait, what if I wanted you to go to bat for me? You were on my high priority.
Well, if we do some planning, maybe we can work this out. But just straight out.
It's a dumb skull. We don't need any planning. You can just. I always think before I do. You just do. You don't have to worry about it. Think about it.
I've never wrestled Hanaya. That would be interesting.
Howling Huntress.
Yeah.
The Cowboys and Indians.
Cowboys and Indians. Yeah. See, like I'm telling you, this is a match made.
We're being politically correct here. Cowboys. Amen. So there's a lot of that's really interesting. So Hanaya.
Who else is going to be there?
A good styles clash there. There's so many up and coming talents in Valkyrie. You think of the Aja Pereas of the world. Renee Michelle. There's so many up and coming. I think that's what the best part about Valkyrie is. It's where a lot of the undiscovered women that are new to the scene, like the Diona Purrazzos and like the veterans. It's a perfect melting pot. And then this in between, but you have the Angel Dusts of the world. Angel Dust is coming back for the International Joshi Grand Prix. It's just, what has Valkyrie meant to you, especially seeing that it's kind of your first regular foray here in the Northeast? What is it that separates, maybe what I'm asking here is, what is it that separates this Northeast crowd here in Valkyrie versus maybe something down south?
Well, let's see. The difference in crowds, it's weird to say because there is a big difference in the crowds, but at the same time, it's still wrestling fans. It just depends on how smart the fans are, and if they want to be snarky about being smart fans. Because there's the snarky, smart fans that don't want to do anything. They don't want to cheer. They just want to see flip, flip, flip. And then there's the wrestling fans that want to see actual, just good psychology wrestling.
Holds. Yeah. I love holds.
So it's just so different. It just depends on the crowd. Like, Valkyrie, I feel like, has a good mix. So, like you said, with Naya, the clash of styles, I think we could tell, Cowboys and Indians story. And then, but it's hard to say because the difference, it just depends on the type of crowd. Because you can still get an old school crowd that just, it's not just about wrestling, it's about the story and what's going on behind the scenes. And I think even most people in Valkyrie have talked to me about this, I am very particular about what I do in that ring. I use everything to my advantage. I try to use everything I can from the corner to the ropes, and not just, she's laying on the ropes, I'm going to choke her, but my infamous she's laying on the ropes, I'm going to kick the ropes so it bounces up and chokes her that way, or look, she's coming at me, I'm going to slam her face into the turnbuckle kind of thing. I'm not going to just do, I'm going to pick her up and slam her. I have other things up my sleeve. And I feel like Valkyrie fans pick up on that more because, and Northeast fans, because it's more methodical. But at the same time, the methodical things, if it's not a fancy move, then at the same time they can be snarky about it. It just depends. Like down south, it's like it's more story driven, and I feel like up Northeast it's more, oh, what can you do move wise, and in some aspects. But depending on the show, like Valkyrie, it doesn't have to be a flip. It could just be a dramatic, like slam into the buckle or something like that, but not just a basic, oh, here, I'm going to throw your face in the buckle. Like, it's hard to explain. I don't know. There is a major difference.
Completely what you're talking about. You know, it's just, and it's all about, I think, just, it's a geographic thing.
It is.
It's what, you know, you grow up seeing. If you're down in the Texas, you're used to the Von Erichs. If you're Northeast, you're used to the Hulk Hogans. You know, that's what it is. It's something as simple as that, something like that. And then Valkyrie, you know, you're there in deep New Jersey, close to Pennsylvania. You know, kind of.
But I do like the fact that not only, especially nowadays, not just Valkyrie, and just in general, women's wrestling is becoming more, you know, more watched for the actual wrestling and not just, oh, look, she's pretty, like, and oh, look, she's half naked running around the ring. It's more of what can these girls do rather than, oh, how do they look? That's one thing I've noticed, and that started a lot in the Northeast, but it's starting to, it helps spread across the states.
Absolutely. Alexia, so we talked about past opponents. We've talked about, you know, Valkyrie, what's happened. Do you have a dream match, my dear? Do you have that one opponent that would just make your career? Who is it? I don't know who it is. Man or woman? That's what I say. A lot of people sometimes, you know, it could be man or woman, whoever you think that you would have the best match against.
God, that's a tough one. Like, currently wrestling?
It could be from any time. But who is your dream opponent?
My dream opponent would have probably been... Jeez. Oh, my gosh. You put me on the spot
you
here.
On the spot. You're damn
gosh.
Is this something you've never thought of in 10 years of...
Well, I've wrestled a lot of people that I thought were, you know, like pretty good, you know, on the top of that list.
Match has already happened. Would you say it has?
Like some like more recent people. Like I've had a match with Havoc. That was intense. I've had a match with Angelina Love. That was WrestleMania weekend in New Orleans. That was crazy. That was absolutely crazy.
That. Where was that? What event?
It was the Mid-South Legends show.
Yes.
Battle lines. It was supposed to be Mickie James and Angelina. Well, Mickie James announced she was pregnant and couldn't do it, and then it was supposed to be Barbie Hayden. And me and Barbie, you know, at that time had already had our like crossings and everything. Barbie missed her flight, and I was already there, and I was like, hell yeah, I'll do it.
Right,
you know, like,
place at the right
place, right time, and like
in front of how many people?
Oh, a few thousand, like at least 1,000 or more.
Best feeling in the world.
Yeah, my biggest crowd I ever wrestled in was my first match. That first one, that 5-way, was actually like 3,000 people because it was the wrestling show and the Demolition Derby kind of thing. So there was a lot of people that one. It was pretty intense.
Making towns, Lexia Avery.
Huh?
Making towns over there. 3,000 people, 1,000 people.
What did she wrestle?
So that you're saying that might have been like, that may have been just your dream, like that, just maybe a dream scenario. Then maybe.
Well, one of my probably number one. Oh God, what did she wrestle by? I just know her by her name now. Oh, because she changed her name. probably one of my top people would have been Victoria or Tara, whatever you want to call her.
Lisa Marie.
Yeah.
Very influential.
It was one of those, like, she followed me on Twitter, and I was like, oh my god, she's following me on Twitter.
At that moment, of course.
Yeah.
Natty.
Natty would be one too. She followed me on Twitter too, and like I had the same moment. I'm like, oh my god.
You talk about Victoria, and it kind of touches upon that transition in 2002 when, you know, the women were going from more than just eye candy to, you know, Trish Stratus and Victoria turning out more than just solid match, like really great matches. The Litas, the Jazzes, the Molly Hollies.
Oh, that's another one I had. Jazz. Oh God, that match. I was talking about nervous wreck. Like I told you, I was nervous with Sumie.
Mm-hmm.
No, with Jazz, I had almost like a panic attack before my match. Like I was freaking out. Like when that was the first time meeting her, and then getting to wrestle her.
Yeah,
it was intense. It was very intense, and it was. And the booker, who was my friend, was like making fun of me. He's like, "Good way to make her feel old," because I was like, "I watched you when I was little." He's like, "Good job." I was like, "Oh, sorry."
Punch, kick.
Yeah. I got to another one. Oh my gosh, I'm remembering all these matches that have like blown my mind now that I'm talking about them. I did a tag match. It was me and this guy Harrison versus Chavo Guerrero Jr. and ODB. Oh my god, that was pretty amazing too. And that match is on YouTube somewhere. It's not the best quality, but that's on there too. But it's under Miss Diss Lexia because I just. You know.
That was going to be my next question. You said Victoria changed her name. So did you.
Yes.
Miss Diss Lexia no more.
Well, not that she's no more, but it's just different. It's a different aspect of my life. And so things can change, or you can have more than one side of you.
It's how you're feeling.
Yeah.
It's how you're feeling, huh?
Yeah, but I felt like I wasn't being taken seriously, even though I've been wrestling as Miss Diss Lexia for the last 9 years. And it's funny because a lot of people think, they're like, oh, Miss Diss Lexia, that's funny. She's going to be silly and happy-go-lucky. And then I come in, and then I'm kind of a bitch.
Yeah. Oh. So Miss Diss Lexia, Lexia Avery. It's time for my kind of lightning round questions here. People just like the little blip questions here. Worst injury in the ring? Have you had one in 9+ years here? 10 years?
Of course. Worst injury. I have to decide which one that is because there's been quite a few. I've had a terrible, terrible concussion.
Oh.
It knocked me loopy. And I'm glad I didn't have to work for a few days. This was actually on that trip that I went. I wrestled at Dayton. At Rockstar, and then the next day I wrestled at the Gathering, and then I wrestled in Mississippi.
For 3 shows.
It was the third show that was in Mississippi that I got the concussion. It was actually the very end of the match.
Ugh, you almost made it home free.
Yeah, well, I had a show the next day still.
Doesn't matter how tough you are. Those are the scariest things in the world. Oh,
terrifying. Especially when you are, your job requires you to think, because not just am I a nurse, I'm an ICU nurse. Mm-hmm. So
intensive care unit, for those of you plebeians out there don't understand the talk.
That's true. So I have to be on my A game and using my brain, because my patients' lives are at stake because of it. Well, I had a few days off. I had a show the next day, but I didn't do very much because I really couldn't. So I literally wanted to sleep the whole time, which the whole concussion thing, you shouldn't sleep when you have a concussion. That's a myth. The only thing is, obviously if you're by yourself, you don't want to sleep, but if somebody's with you, you can sleep, but they just have to make sure you can wake up. Mm-hmm. And if you're throwing up and if you think you have a concussion, you start throwing up, you should probably go to the hospital. But anyway, I wasn't throwing up after this concussion, but I was pretty loopy. Like so the girls, they were going for it looked like it was supposed to be a wheelbarrow splash. Well, instead of splashing, she landed all of her weight with her butt on my face.
Ugh.
Granted, I won't say her name because we have some actual issues. Like, if we ever see each other in person, I'm probably going to punch her in the face. But
I want to know.
Maybe I'll tell you when we're off.
Fun fact, everyone listening, I make everybody tell me who these people are afterwards. If you ask me, I won't tell you.
Well, and it wasn't even because of the injury. It was because of how she dealt with me afterwards, like a few days later. But anyway,
I can't wait to find out and never tell any of you fans.
I guess I mean, it's just it wasn't the injury that's making me dislike her, because injuries happen. Stuff happens. It's more of how she wants to act as a person afterwards. And not even immediately afterwards. There's a few days. But anyway, so, you know, when she landed on my head, you know, you see those cartoons when something lands on a cartoon's head and their eyes bug out of their head? Mm-hmm. That's literally what it felt like. But I had the next day off because I was supposed to have a show. I ran around and did some stuff, but I didn't really do, like, I didn't take any bombs or anything like that. And then we drove home that night. And then the next day, I had the whole next day off. I literally slept. Like, I got up to go get food, like to go to the kitchen to eat and to go to the bathroom. I slept for probably about 20 hours. And then I had to work the next day. I was literally at work. I probably should have called in because, like, when the doctors were trying to talk to me, they would say something and I'd just be like for a minute. Like, I couldn't even think. Yeah.
Of course.
So head injuries are not a joke, and I've like gotten onto like I probably should have went to a doctor myself, but I didn't because I'm a stubborn wrestler, 2 stubborn nurse. But I got better, but I still do have like issues where I have a moment where it takes me a minute to like think about what I have to say. So it has affected me long term. And that's why I'm very cautious about the shows that I pick nowadays, because I don't want that to happen again, because you never know what the next one will do.
Absolutely. It's just a matter of taking care of yourself, knowing, you know, how to handle it. Absolutely.
And that's just one of the injuries that we're talking about. I've had a back injury where I literally laid in the ring, was like, oh, well, I can feel pain, so that means I'm not paralyzed, so that's good.
When that's what that's your thought, like, well, I'm not paralyzed, that's always a plus.
Yeah, that's always a good sign, you know, like, so I've been mostly lucky, I guess, but I have had some pretty gnarly injuries, head injury, back injury. So that's
all the injury report there.
Yeah.
Best rib you've either seen or been a part of?
Oh, dear Lord.
Nothing is restricted. You can say anything on this podcast.
I don't know. There's probably been a lot. I don't know. That's a difficult one, because I never really did anything too bad to anybody.
No. Have you seen
that I remember?
Again,
I've hit my head a lot. I don't know.
Concussion. Again, let's say maybe something you've seen down in Texas, maybe.
It's hard.
Nothing too outrageous. People down there, they're so very serious. Of the people I've met from Texas, all of them are good people, very serious people. The Masadas of the world.
I love Masada.
Very nice, good dude. He's serious. Scott Summers, I've had the pleasure of meeting.
Scott's my buddy. These guys are all my buddies. Like, it's
They're
so funny.
very serious. They don't strike me as prankers, and maybe that's...
Oh my god, yeah, they totally are if you know them, but it's hard to say because, like I said, I've hit my head. It's been 10 years since I've been around.
For the ribs, she's hit her head too much.
Yeah, I don't know. There's been some. I can't remember right now.
Yeah.
I don't know. You put me on the spot, and I just told you my mind works slow.
Exactly. Do you have any tips for the up-and-comers out there? 10 years. What if you could give one key and piece of advice, what is it that you would give? One?
Well, I have plenty, but...
I'm sure you do. I want to know what's the one that you feel like people can need to learn the most about? What is it that you would like to tell these up-and-comers that may be listening right now?
Well, so everybody always says this one, and people don't really take it to heart, but it's to shut up and listen. And it's dead serious. Now, obviously, you're not going to want to shut up and listen to somebody that has no clue what they're talking about, but it doesn't hurt to just shut up and listen because there might be a tidbit in there. And don't, just blow people off because you never know who's who and who's been doing what. And, just, I guess, shut up and listen / be respectful of people because you don't know where that person's been. They might not have made it to WWE or, TNA or ROH, but they might have a tidbit for you. And you never know how it'll work out. You never know, if it's a piece of advice for a match or piece of advice for how to treat somebody better or, you never know where that person's been or what they've been through or it's just shut up and listen, be respectful. I guess I'm getting into more than one now.
All under the same umbrella though.
Yeah.
Agreed. And my last one, I got time for one more, Lexi. I want to talk about your child. I want to talk about
what?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, I don't have any children. Yeah, but I do. Huh?
I want to talk about your doggy, is who I want to talk about.
He's looking at me.
I have been acquainted with this dog. I met said dog a couple months ago. Just roaming the locker room. Let's ask the promoter if you have a pet that is traveling with you, if you're going to be gone for a few days. Ask the promoter if you could bring your pet. Lexia did.
He said I could?
He did, as I'm saying. There's another helpful to anybody.
I was like, what?
I think that would be the best traveling companion when you are
he's amazing. He's the best. And he is such a good dog in the car. He sits on my middle console. If I have plenty of pictures of him on Instagram, just sitting in the car chilling. I found out after, because the show after Valkyrie, I had Excellence the next day.
Excellence Pro.
The next day, and there's a lot of guys from Chikara on there.
Yes.
I've come to the realization that Thor hates people in masks.
Yes.
Them.
I just spent my whole weekend. I was refereeing at King of Trios, actually, so there was nothing but masks.
Yeah.
It's a whole other face. If you're a dog, you don't know if there's another face under there. It's a person.
Yeah, and I think somebody pulled their mask off in front of him, and he freaked out even more, kind of like small children do. Like if Chuck E. Cheese or anybody pulls their head off, and you're like, oh my god, you just decapitated yourself. Out. I feel like that's what children and dogs think when people pull masks or heads off of things. They're like, oh my god.
Their own head.
Yeah.
Terrified.
This person's insane.
Big pop for Thor.
Big pop for Thor. I keep saying that I need to start his own Twitter or Instagram, and I haven't done it, and I'm pretty sure that he'll get more followers than me. It's funny, but it's true. If you want to tweet Thor, you can tweet him through me.
I was going to say, if we want to tweet you, if we want to Instagram you, or whatever you feel comfortable, where can we find you on social media? Tell us now. This is where we can find you.
All right, social media. So my Instagram, since I'm on that right now, we'll go with that one first. It's Lexia _Avery, Lexia. underscore Avery. That is my Instagram. Now, my Twitter handle is still Miss Diss Lexia, and let me get the full Twitter handle, because you can't change your handle unless you lose all your followers, and that's kind of, I'm not doing that. I'm almost to 2,000, so I'm not losing them. It's at MISSDISS_LEXIA. And then my Facebook, I don't have a regular Facebook for wrestling. I have one, but it's my personal one. So if you send me a request and I don't know you, I'm not going to add you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you jerks.
Yeah.
Weirdos.
Well, no, like people they try to add me and they're like, oh, I'm a fan, da da da. And I'm like, you're not a personal friend or family member of mine. And even wrestlers get mad at me because some of the wrestlers, I won't add them either, because I'm like, when do we hang out together outside of wrestling?
I have more people on my People I May Know feed named Draven and the Crusher and the worst names, and it's their actual Facebooks. On Facebooks, Troy Nelson is just Ty on Facebook, and he doesn't accept anyone else does.
Well, I have the like pages, and people can message me through there.
Lexia Avery, correct?
Yes, Lexia Avery. I also have the Miss Diss Lexia one. Either way, I update both of them. The thing about it is, my Facebook is my Facebook for my friends and family, and if you send me a request, even like, I don't even think we're friends on Facebook. I used to have one for War Wrestling, and then it was Miss Diss Lexia, and then Facebook got all stupid with that name thing.
You hit me up on the Instagram. I follow you on the Instagram.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram all the time. Instagram and the like page and Twitter. I'm on there. Do you really need me on Facebook too? Like, do people need all of the above?
No.
I post enough on those three alone that you don't need to see what's going on, because I tag family members, and then some of my actual friends that are in wrestling, and then they comment stupid stuff on my pictures, and then I have to delete them because I'm like, I also have like nieces and nephews that are like 9 and 10 that are on Facebook, and people are commenting the stupid stuff. I'm like, I don't want them seeing that, so that's why I don't add other people.
Things that could possibly be written.
Yeah. So I've actually had to delete actual friends too. Like, I'm like, you're my friend, but you post some stupid stuff, and I don't want my family seeing that.
Well, Lexia, you have been a delight. You are the best, whether you are Miss Diss Lexia or Lexia Avery. We are going to be looking forward to seeing you again at Valkyrie in November.
Buy my stuff, people.
She's going to be shilling that merch in November. Make it happen. Thank you for joining us, and I can't wait to be seeing you in November.
Alrighty. I miss everybody.
There we have it, Lexia Avery with my good friend, my great friend, Top Shelf Troy Nelson. Back here with Valkyrie Senior Official Kris Levin. Kris, welcome back after the interview. We have a little bit to discuss. We have South Jersey WrestleFest that you and I are going to talk about a little bit here.
Yeah, we are coming off of the South Jersey WrestleFest, the first ever, which is, it's a really exciting thing. As a wrestling fan growing up in the Northeast, I'm not sure how many people are familiar with this, but Break the Barrier was a big thing in, I believe it was 1999, where a bunch of independent companies joined together and put on one big super show at the ECW arena. And, it happens occasionally, but, it wasn't what really ever brought back to this area where it really started. And WrestleFest did it, and it was a great night.
And it would not be a Valkyrie Confidential without some obscure independent wrestling reference. Thank you. Normally that's...
Top Shelf was not here, so I had to pick up the slack.
Exactly. So South Jersey WrestleFest, Valkyrie representing on South Jersey WrestleFest. Give me the info. I need to know. What happened.
Yes, sir. Because Casey Carlisle made her historic defense of the Queen of Valkyrie Championship against Nyla the Destroyer. Both of these women going into this contest undefeated. And not only that, but Casey Carlisle had a bit of help in her corner, as she leased out the services of Los Abusadores Internacionales, Jorge Estrella and Natalie, to her aid from La Rosa Negra.
Now, I'm just going to say this. That is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I don't know who runs South Jersey WrestleFest that allowed those two at ringside for this match, but they should be ashamed of themselves.
You know, I'm not happy about it either, and Casey did pick up the win, but it was an incredible contest. A lot of people called it a show stealer, and I would put my money right on that too if we were betting on it.
All right. And then also Valkyrie representing in the Battle Royal that as well. Natalie in the Battle Royal, Jorge in the Battle Royal.
And Nyla as well, looking to get some revenge. She actually ended up eliminating Natalie. But, of course, Jorge Estrada was right behind to eliminate Nyla.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Nyla Destroyer is not someone I would cross. I would just say that.
No, I would definitely put her in my top 8 on MySpace if it meant being on a good side.
That's funny. I didn't know that you were alive when MySpace was a thing.
Yeah, that I was. I'm actually not 12 years old.
I know, 14.
14, yes.
Yeah. And then, so we also have to discuss kind of something interesting, something I'm looking forward to. Let's call this a brother promotion to Valkyrie, kind of in its nascent states. But talk to me about BAM. Talk about Pro Wrestling BAM.
Well, Pro Wrestling BAM is coming from a lot of the minds and people behind Valkyrie. We decided during this downtime, instead of sitting around kind of waiting, we would put together something very similar to Valkyrie, but also very different. This would not be an all-women's company. Women would, of course, be involved in it. There would be Valkyrie showcases and things like that. But, yeah, it's just something we've always wanted to do. And now that we have the time, we are presenting Pro Wrestling BAM, brilliant all-star mat work.
Yeah, and right now you can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/Pro Wrestling BAM, on Twitter, Pro Wrestling BAM. There's an Instagram. I'm trying to remember what it is. Pro Wrestling BAM.
Yeah, got it.
And no information yet because it's nascent, as I said, nascent stages, but coming soon to New Jersey. Let's just say that.
Absolutely. We are in the development stages, and just because Valkyrie's taking a break doesn't mean that Rob Blatt or Troy Nelson are, because I think I can break this scoop that we will see a bit of a continuation, a spiritual sequel during Valkyrie's downtime with the BAMcast.
The Good Brother podcast to the Valkyrie cast, or the Valkcast. BAMcast coming up soon.
Absolutely. Stay in tune for that. There's going to be a lot of familiar faces involved.
And at least 2 familiar voices.
At least one familiar referee.
Yes, absolutely. At least one, if not
At
more.
least one, yes.
For senior referee and referee extraordinaire, senior official, I should say. I don't mean to discredit what your role is here. But senior official and referee extraordinaire Kris Levin, celebrating his bar mitzvah very soon. I am one of your hosts, Rob Blatt, and we will see you next time on Valkyrie Women's Pro Wrestling Confidential, and also the BAMcast, Pro Wrestling BAMcast.
Mazel tov.